Boom! All right, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're a fashion enthusiast or an entrepreneur seeking inspiration, this episode promises to deliver some valuable insight and the story behind Chubbies' success. So let's get ready to rock and roll. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, my business bros, today we're diving into the colorful world of Chubbies with one of its co-founders. So Chubbies is known for its basically take on men's fashion and its mission to deliver that Friday at 5 feeling every day. And it's taken the fashion world by storm. So join us as we uncover the unique journey of Chubbies and it's from its inception as a response to traditional fashion to becoming a lifestyle brand that's all about community, fun, and mental health awareness. So let's welcome to the show, Mr. Preston Rutherford. All right, Preston, man, the party is now ready to begin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. That intro was amazing.
Hey, man, you got the Friday at 5 feeling. I'm trying to give you the Friday at 5 energy. So maybe
That's
somehow
right.
together it'll work, right?
Exactly.
All right, let's jump into this, man. First question I always have is the most obvious one. Everyone who comes on the show is here to talk about their product, service. What is it that they offer? So for you, tell me a little bit about what is Chubbies?
Sure. It is a men's apparel brand. We started it, 12 years ago now. And it's the goal, as you said, I mean, you said it so perfectly. The goal is to bring that Friday at 5 feeling to everyone who buys a pair of our shorts or just follows us on social media. And, one of the 4 co-founders, and now the team is built out by a bunch of amazing folks that, they're the ones who are turning it into what it is today. It was acquired in 2021 and also went public in 2021 as part of a roll-up. And so on the public markets, it's called Solo Brands. And so Solo Stove, which is a smokeless fire pit company, and a few other brands are part of this 4 brand roll-up company. But the whole idea is to bring a little bit of levity and fun to your weekend wardrobe, swim trunks, shorts, athletic shorts. The general idea is that they're shorter. They harken back to the 70s and 80s. Now, as you probably know, I mean, shorts in general are more commonly shorter, but when we started it 12 years ago, that was not the case. So it was a little bit of a, let's try to be the opposite of what existed at the time. And that generally was the guide to much of what we did from a marketing, brand building perspective. Was just, let's be the opposite of the status quo. If everything else is stuffy and serious, let's be lighthearted, fun, and bring a little bit of levity to things. So that's a little bit about Chubbies.
Nice, dude. And I saw a couple pictures. They are very chill, very relaxed, very bright at times, right? And they look like a lot of fun. And I mean, okay, I'll be honest, man. I'm not the type of guy who wears a suit and tie every day. That's just not my gig. And if it was, I'd have to find a way to kind of make it my own. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to show up, suit on top and shorts on the bottom, but you definitely make a good case for some of the fun stuff that you come up with. Tell me about like your background. How did you decide to get into fashion? I mean, you could have probably done a number of different things.
My goodness. I don't know if I could have done a number of different things. I appreciate that kind of statement, but it seems like this is all all I was set out to do or fit to do. But went to school with 3 other really good friends, and we were working out of college for other people. And through sort of like 4 or 5 years, we realized, gosh, we would love the opportunity to start something, to create something from scratch and work for ourselves. And that idea was extremely attractive to us. We didn't know exactly what we wanted to do. And so we were searching, and it just so happened that all of us had some experience. I wouldn't say like professional experience, but more personal experience with shorter shorts. So I played rugby in college. Two of the other guys played soccer in college. The fourth guy was from the Southeast, where shorter shorts are in general more common. But we wanted to bring something that was fun and different to the world, as I mentioned before. And none of us studied computer science in college, so that was off the table in terms of creating the next billion-dollar social media app. So we thought the next best thing was to just start selling shorts on the internet. And that's what we did. We started really small, nights and weekends, while we still had our other jobs. But got to a place where some folks were buying the stuff. We started in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and this was the time when that Square card reader, I feel so old talking about it, the Square card reader had just come out. No Venmo, no Square Cash. It was the actual card reader, which was a huge innovation at the time, because we would just be wearing the product, and we had maybe 20 pairs that we'd made at the time, but we carried them in our backpacks just as we were going out and about in the city, in San Francisco, which is where we grew up. And at the time, you didn't have to have cash. You could actually swipe your credit card and buy product. And, that's how it got started, just sort of like old fashioned in-person selling product to folks. So that's a little bit about sort of like my background, how we got started.
Nothing fuels the entrepreneurial dream like a sale, right? You have an idea, you bring it to life. That part can be exciting. But when you take it to market and somebody says, hey, I like that, let me get one of those, and they actually pay you for it, oh man, that's the fuel you need to keep going. Because I'd imagine working nights, working weekends, still having your full-time job and trying to launch a business, that has got to be super tough. And that's the reason why a lot of people don't do it, right? Because it's that extra time, and I'd rather be watching Netflix or going to the beach, enjoying those shorts, than actually making all those pairs of shorts, right? Totally. So take me back to those first early couple days. What was it like? I mean, you're 12 years down the road now, but there's people who want to get started in a gig right now, something like that. What was some of those hurdles that you had to overcome early on to get to where you are today?
Sure. Great question. I'd say the biggest thing that was a help in dealing with all of the stuff that you inevitably deal with when you're taking something from nothing to something was just having 3 other co-founders, just other people in it with you who can keep the momentum going. Because it's just so hard to keep momentum going, momentum up when you're starting something, right? Because you don't even know what you don't know. And so you're just learning as you go. So having those 3 other co-founders, I just feel so blessed, was such a gift, because there was, if one of us was down, the 3 others or 2 others were always there just to kind of like bring us back up and keep things going, and could present a new idea, and things like that. But I think one of the other things that I would say outside of the co-founders was just the idea that we felt like the thing that we were doing needed to exist, and that the world would be better because of that, and that it was just missing. And so there was a mission component to it as well, where, whether it sounds funny or not, it kind of felt like it was bigger than us to a certain degree, to where it was just like, okay, yeah, just figure it out, put it out there, just see what happens. So I'd say those were the 2 things, the co-founders just to keep you going. And then this idea that once we kind of figured out what we were going to do, this has to exist. There isn't anything like this. And so both from a product perspective and from just a vibe or brand perspective, it just felt like both of those things being novel and being, in our opinion, objectively better than what existed, it was kind of incumbent upon us to bring it to the world. And so therefore, let's just forget all of this stuff, acknowledge that it's going to be hard, and just do it.
What about scaling that up? So, I mean, it's not I mean, you can make some money when you have them in your backpack and you're selling them with Square, right? Yes, you're making some sales, and yeah, it feels good. And yeah, maybe you're a little bit of profit when it comes to the cost of goods versus what you net after the sale.
Sure.
But you weren't making a living at that point, right? At that point,
Right.
it's not really an income that you're super proud of, but you're building it to that. What was that process like?
Gosh, it was crazy. A lot of pre-sales, so this was like an e-commerce business, right? So you could, well, it started as in person, as I said, but then it transitioned to e-commerce. So then at that point, we didn't have cash to fund production. So we had to do pre-sales, and pre-sales are just a wonderful thing. I mean, they can also be horrible, and we learned a little bit of that, but they could be great for getting cash in the short term, and you could build up buzz. And we tried to build buzz as inexpensively as possible. So starting with our friends, in-person stuff. We reached out to folks on college campuses. That was a place where we thought we could reach some folks, get some college ambassadors who would then tell their communities. And things like that got us to a place where we could just try to build up buzz for a particular launch, do a pre-sale. And that was a great way to bring in cash. As I mentioned, there are some downsides. And so because we were new to this whole thing, we ran into some issues on the production side. And that letting down customers by missing a date was really tough. So, we did have to go out. We went to, 60 of our closest friends and family members and raised roughly $10K per person. And that gave us a little bit of cash to be able to actually make product and then sell it to people where we could ship it to them that day or the next day. And so then that was a huge sort of like step function growth for us at that point, where, because people don't want to wait 3-4 months to get a product.
No.
So then, that was sort of like the delivery components of the scaling. And then outside of that, social media, as weird as it sounds, some of the stuff was like wild, wild west stuff. So, Instagram was barely a thing. TikTok didn't exist. None of these things really existed. It was mostly Facebook, and getting Facebook likes, oddly enough, was a thing. And so you could do a bunch of fun, crazy promo, kind of like, guerrilla marketing, growth hacking sort of things. And we did all of it. We explored everything. There were just a bunch of different opportunities if you just got deep in it and got creative to gain following really quickly and really inexpensively. And we tried to do all of that in an ethical fashion, of course. But you could do fun stuff, and you could also just get your story out in a fun way as well. And so that was, I think, step one of the scaling. And then I think step two was just really trying to figure out how to use the paid component of these, social media platforms to distribute our ads, distribute our content. And always trying to, have the highest standards of content, trying to never look like an ad, trying to be the best, funniest thing, even if it was an ad that someone saw that day, so that they would share it with their friends. And that, those were the things that I think helped separate us, signal from the noise sort of thing, just by investing so much time and effort in not doing the easy thing from a content creation perspective, but trying to do the hard thing, and really investing in things like funny product names, funny product descriptions, just really investing in every single detail so that we would just set ourselves apart, stand out from, because we're some commodities, man. I mean, you can get shorts anywhere. There's no patent on this thing. There's no technological advantage. There's nothing. So all we have is that mental association we build in the mind that is the brand. And so starting to just figure out how to scale that, get that message out, just make people laugh. At the end of the day, it was really what our focus was, bring that levity, that weekend feeling to folks, that Friday at 5 feeling, as I mentioned. That was sort of like what we were devoted to, outside of just trying to make really good product. At the beginning, we had product quality issues too. So like a lot of people would either go to the gym and try to work out in our shorts, or go to the bars and maybe they'd try a dance move or something and they'd split the seam at the crotch. And so, a lot of this stuff was happening in the early days where it was like, oh man, we've got so much to work on. But people gave us grace, they gave us the benefit of the doubt. So those are a couple of the sort of like early points around scaling.
Yeah, well, I mean, growing a brand is not the easiest thing in the world. And I think the approach that you guys took is fantastic. And it takes longer than people think, right? I mean, you only had so many funds to throw at paid ads to force your content in front of people. You needed a way to make it organic. And I think having that fun, copy, having the fun names of your products, having people, split the seams probably in some videos or some user-generated content, that definitely brings that brand loyalty up. But I think it also creates a community around your product or service, and in your case around the shorts. What have you experienced when it comes to your community? And I know I mentioned earlier in the intro that it's also about helping with mental health. How has building that brand kind of brought that together for you?
It's all about the community. I mean, that's probably the coolest thing. Just looking back on in 50 years or whatever, I don't know how long humans are going to live, 100 years, just looking back on this experience, that's what the community is, the coolest thing. And UGC wasn't really a thing 15 years ago, 12 years ago. It was very, very new. But to see over the years, the thousands and thousands and thousands of just social media posts tagged Chubbies where people are just living the weekend and having more fun because of the bright, you mentioned, shorts that we have, or how the shorts help them feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more fun, a little bit more able to, express themselves, feel the joy of the weekend, feel more comfortable. Seeing that show up and seeing the impact and how it evolved over time. Because when we started, gosh, we were mid-20s. And then we started having our own kids, building our own families. And then to see that reflected in the community, the evolution of the community, because it's like a living, breathing thing. But yeah, the community is everything. I mean, we call it the Chubster Nation. And it was just a bunch of folks who were excited about having a little bit of fun in life. And we just try to make it as easy as possible. I mean, our goal was to make our customers feel like heroes. So we did everything we could to do that. And social media was an amazing tool to be able to do that. I mean, and at the time you could reach effectively all of your audience organically. So, I mean, just the dynamics were completely crazy and different from what they are now. But to be able to get a, user submitted photo in, and then just one of the things we did was just like write funny made up stories that was the story that supported that photo, even though we knew nothing about it, right? And then post it, and then they would just love it, and they would think it was so cool, and they'd share it with their friends. But doing that time and time again, I think was huge. We just tried to give back as much as we could to what they were giving to us, and really turned it into a relationship. Another point in the community, like we did, and it was very self-serving too, because it was very fun. We did a tailgate tour where we went through the Southeast and went to a bunch of tailgates at SEC football games, right? College football games.
Nice.
And got to meet a bunch of our customers, because in the Southeast, there was a very strong sort of like customer contingent. And just being able to interact with so many of our customers or potential customers live, and being able to, we decked that tour bus, just outside and inside, and towed a 50-foot television that people could watch the games if they didn't go inside the game, just to create that ideal weekend experience, barbecuing, stuff like that. So doing a lot to just try to build that community, because that's one of the things, as you talk about building a brand and doing things organically, that's one of the things that creates resilient revenue that's there, whether or not you run really high quality paid social ads that convert on one day or another day. That's kind of like that SaaS subscription type revenue. And that's not the only reason why you do it, but that's one of the main benefits of building a strong community like that. And then to your point on mental health, I mean, that's fundamentally one of the main reasons why we started the business in the first place. I mean, we graduated college in 2008, a global recession. None of us could really get jobs. It was wild, and it was very stressful. especially, you graduate college, like, everyone's asking you what you're going to do with your life, what jobs you're looking at. And I was like, a lot of it, we were just sort of like, I don't know. I personally had to just join a company that was started by one of my roommates as effectively an unpaid intern. And luckily it turned into a job, but it was just hard. It was hard at that time. And we then went through it, and it continued to be hard for the next 4 years until we started Chubbies. And so one of those things was, gosh, we would love to, again, consistent with this idea of trying to be the opposite of what existed at the time with the status quo. We were like, let's just completely get out of the idea of stress around work, and not just around what happened with the financial crisis, but just the whole idea of being a young professional and having to try to come across in a certain way. We would talk about sort of like the shackles of pants and having to wear slacks to work and being handcuffed to your cubicle and TPS reports, all this stuff where we could just sort of like poke fun at traditional work and the stress of work to try to, again, bring a little bit of that feeling of Friday at 5 to the Monday through Friday. And okay, so that's all backdrop for, fundamentally, it's about mental health. It's about having, for us, it was being able to get out of the stress and anxiety of being something that either society, or at least we thought society, says that we should be, or we should be accomplishing certain things by this time in our life, or, we're not, as we compare ourselves across this person or this person that I see on Instagram or on YouTube, I'm not doing good enough. All of these sorts of things that affect us, affect all of us, I think, were things that we just wanted to address, because our core of our brand message was just be who you are, accept yourself. We welcome everyone into this brand that is the weekend. Weekend is for everybody, and it is the time when you are in control of your schedule. For most of us, right? Some of us obviously work on weekends, but whatever that means for you, right? And so that was then very consistent with the charities that we would support throughout the life of our business, because we were lucky enough to be able to support a variety over time and still do, but then getting to, what we're doing with mental health, with the foundation and things like that. Just a very consistent and natural progression for, I think, the things that were fundamental underpinnings for why we started the business in the first place. And that's what we wanted it to be, just a very kind of authentic, okay, how can we give back? This is what makes the most sense given who we are, what we stand for, why we started the business in the first place. And it's our view that with a bit of levity, with a bit of fun, with a bit of focus on, our agency and our freedom on the weekends and this time to create real memories in person is one of those things that we think can kind of like, build up our mental fitness. We don't even have to call it mental health, just our mental fitness.
It was a tough time, man. 2008 was rough for sure. There's a lot of people who were struggling, and I feel like we're kind of going through it in the opposite sense today. Back then, things were going on the downturn, and today we have inflationary periods, but it makes it just as difficult for people to go out and make a living. So I totally understand, what people are going through then, what we went through then. They're kind of feeling it now. They do need that camaraderie, and it's funny because as I'm listening to your story, and you have your boys and you guys went to college together and you're over here having fun making this brand. I can't help but think in my head of Impractical Jokers. Like, you literally get to hang out with your boys, have fun, and create a lifestyle around a business that you enjoy doing together. I mean, that's the ideal dream. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs struggle with that. They start off with this vision of what they want, but they get trapped in I got to make my bills. I got to, make sure I'm cash flow positive and all these different things that happen in business, and they get stuck, right? And having your boys there to kind of help you work through some of the issues, solve some of those problems, do some of the work that is necessary, it kind of gives you that push forward. And I know oftentimes they say you shouldn't work with the family or whatever, but you know what? these are your boys, right? It's a little bit different, and it worked out for you. 12 years down the road, here you are, much more successful than you were when you first began. So if people want to find out more about the Chubbies community, they want to find out more about maybe grabbing a pair of shorts themselves, how can they do that?
Sure. Chubbiesshorts.com, Chubbies, and then the word shorts.com. And let us know. Let us know what you think about them. Let us know if you like them. Would love any feedback. But yeah, that's where you can find Chubbies if you're looking for a pair of shorts. We're getting into spring and summer. It's raining here in California today, but that won't last for too much longer. So the timing is perfect.
Ooh, you're in Northern California, so it hasn't hit me yet. I'm in San Diego. It's going to hit you first and then gradually come down, but we're going to get some of that rain too. So yeah, and it's always a beautiful day here in San Diego. So even when it rains, yeah, we don't really complain because it happens very rarely. So if you're in San Diego, actually, if you're just in any kind of sunny state, you want that Friday at 5 feeling, make sure you guys go to the website. It's chubbiesshorts.com, chubbiesshorts.com. Scrolling across the bottom, get yourself a pair of fun shorts. Dr. Lauren Michael Harris is over here talking about this is a great conversation, saying hello to you beautiful people. I'm sure he's probably going to go and check out the shorts himself. He has got a podcast himself. I've talked to him. Pretty fashionable guy, so I think he'll enjoy it as well. And chubbiesshorts.com, ladies and gentlemen. Preston, thank you very much for coming on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you guys to relax. You can have that Friday at 5 feeling every single day of the week if you get yourself a pair of Chubbies. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
Thank you.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get